What's up, guys? 2-2 last night, although because one was a fairly significant hockey underdog money line play, the way that I bet it to win the same amount that I'm betting on the other ones. So you end up putting a little bit less money on the line to win more on that. So because of that, it still wound up being a winning night at 2-2, which I'll certainly take. I continue to be rolling here. I think I've won, I don't know what it is now, 17 days out of the last 22 or 23. I'd have to go check, something like that. It's going quite well. I like it. That moneyline hockey underdog, I think it was the right play. It probably should have gotten there. Seattle, statistically, they did outplay. Who were they even playing? I don't even remember. Statistically, they did outplay Toronto there. When you have an underdog that takes the game into a shootout and they're like a substantial underdog like that, even though they fell on the wrong side of it, that kind of tells you that it was the right play to make. There was value there. If you have a plus 160 or whatever underdog and they wind up taking it into overtime and into a shootout, Seattle was losing that game by 1 or 2 goals throughout like the middle of the game, although they wound up tying it in the third period, obviously. But statistically, I think they played better than what that score was. Like, they statistically shouldn't have been out of that game at all. And as they showed, they were not out of it, and they took it right to the wire. So that's what you want with like a money line underdog. And you want the team that's not going to give up either, which they certainly did not. So that was, unfortunately, it just wound up falling on the wrong side of it. It's just one of those plays where I think it was the right play to make. I don't know if there's anything else to say about that, but Seattle, I think they had a significant shot discrepancy on their side, although some of that could have been because they were losing and they were firing more shots, but I still think they outplayed Toronto in a lot of aspects of that game. So that was the situation there. That was not the case with the Winnipeg play. That was the bad play of the night, Winnipeg. They just got completely outplayed. It was just not good. Edmonton had like 70-something% of faceoffs won and way more shots. It was just, bad. That was a bad loss. What can you say about that? And then St. Louis got there. They started out with a 3-0 lead, so it was kind of like the game was just kind of in hand at that point already. And I think that is what led to Buffalo having a more significant shot discrepancy than they would have otherwise, because Buffalo did fire way more shots than the Blues did in that game, but they were losing by a ton of goals almost right out of the gate. So that has something to do with it, even though maybe they outplayed the Blues in some aspect of it, but not in the physicality of it. If you look at the hits, it was a pretty large hit discrepancy in favor of the Blues. Buffalo only had 5 in the entire game or something, so a very non-physical performance from them. But that was the case with that one. And then Golden State Warriors wound up getting there to give me the win on the night, which that wound up being not a very good play numerically, number-wise. I think I laid 5 with the Warriors. I really did not expect that line to come crashing down. I don't know what factored into that, but it crashed all the way down to like 2 or something like that. So you could have gotten the Warriors at a much better price, but it seems like a lot of times, man, my situational read is just strong and the number winds up not coming into play, which was the case there last night as well, because the Warriors just kind of led the whole game and wound up covering, even though it got a little dicey at the end. You kind of figured like towards the end there, well, it might wind up coming down to intentional free throws and they'll still be able to do it. So they were still able to cover that number. But it was, you never like to see that. You never want to be on that bad of a number, losing like 3 or whatever points of value there. It's bad. You can't continue doing that and wind up winning, even though it seems like whenever it happens to me, it's always in the NBA and it always I still wind up winning like a majority of those plays. So I don't know what the deal is there, but that was just, that was the situation there. Don't want to be on a really bad number like that, but it's still cashed fairly easily. So what else can you say about that? The read on the Warriors was correct, but the timing of the bet was not correct. I still have no idea what factored into that, because I don't know if the Warriors had injuries or what that was. I don't know why the line crashed that much, because Curry played. I mean, you guys could like tell me in the comments if you know what the deal was with that, but most of their guys are in there. Green was there, Curry was there, Thompson was there. I don't think they had any significant injuries, really. So I have no idea. Moving on to today's slate. I'm skipping the NHL slate with only 2 games on the card. I don't see any angles. I don't like it. I'm not doing it. And then let's see, NBA. NBA half of the card are like double-digit favorites, and I just really kind of don't want to get involved. Although you could say maybe the Pelicans are in a bad spot because they're coming off that big win over the Philadelphia 76ers, so maybe they're in a letdown spot, laying 12.5 against the Spurs. I don't know. I mean, I certainly would not want to lay it with the Pelicans there. And then McCollum did come back in that game, even though that didn't keep me away from the Pelicans in that 76ers game. I thought the spot was strong enough, and it wound up being a nice, easy win there. But so the reverse injured player theory didn't really come into effect on that one. So I don't know. There's that. And then I think one of these games is a zigzag spot. Which one is it? I don't even know. Is it? Is it? I don't even know. I thought one of them was, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I don't even remember. But whatever the case is, Orlando, Washington, I think is a zigzag. And Orlando's kind of laying the same amount of points. They're up from 10.5 to 11, 79% of the cash, but 76% of the tickets. And they covered the number by a couple of points in the first game. I don't know what you can really read into that, really. I would not want to lay that many points with the Magic, even though the Magic certainly look like they're better than they thought. They're better than we thought that they were, but I still think they're an overpriced commodity in the market right now because they've been playing so well. So, and then Nuggets, Suns, and sexy Sixers, the 76ers. No, Nuggets, Suns, and 76ers Celtics are the big games on the board tonight, but I don't know what to say about that. The Nuggets are a 2.5 point favorite on the road, up from 2, and the Celtics are down from 6.5 to 6. So you might argue that the Celtics and the Sixers are like zigzagging. The Celtics won the previous matchup against them after the Sixers got the first one and got playoff revenge against the Celtics. I believe that's the case. So maybe it's the Sixers' turn again, and the Celtics are favored, I think, by a little bit more than they were in those other games. And the Sixers are coming off that really awful performance against the Pelicans because I think they were looking ahead to this game. So the slight lean would be to the Sixers in that one. And the Nuggets Suns, I really don't think I even have any read at all on that one. I don't know what to say about that one. NBA, just not enticing. College basketball is the only play that I have today. College basketball. I'm playing Mercer against Georgia, the team that got me all excited the other night and got me that 5-1. It looked like it was going to still be a win at 4-2 the other night, but they wound up making a huge run at the end of their game to pull off the upset of Florida State after they were down 15 with like 7 minutes left. They wound up outscoring them by 17 down the stretch and winning on that nice jumper near the end there. That was awesome. But now Georgia's in a letdown spot, man. They're down from 15.5 to 14.5. I don't see the percentages on this, but the number has moved against Georgia a little bit. And there are multiple factors here that put me on Mercer. I took Mercer plus 14.5. I think you can still get that number. That number is predominant. I think it's out there. What are we looking at here? Well, of course, as you know, I just mentioned it, and you know how I handicap Georgia is in a letdown spot. They just pulled off a 9.5 point upset of Florida State. So that was a big win for them. They're coming off that. Now they get to face Mercer, and Mercer is actually probably going to be a little bit of an undervalued commodity after that because people saw Georgia. Georgia's been playing okay. Like they played Miami competitively. They played Providence competitively. They beat Wake Forest. They played pretty competitively against Oregon, although Oregon's not really that good. And now they just saw them rally against Florida State to pull off that ridiculous upset. But Florida State, I think, is down. They're not as good as they have been in some of these recent seasons, but still a big win for Georgia. Big upset. Now Mercer's coming in. People are not really going to be paying much attention to Mercer, but I think this is a much bigger game for Mercer. Georgia is coming off their bigger game. They beat Florida State. Mercer's coming in, and Mercer is a smaller school in the same state. They're an in-state little brother in Georgia. So I think this game matters to Mercer more. They get to play that, little brother role, and I think that's going to motivate them. Getting all these points, I think they might be able to hang here. And I don't think Georgia has the most prolific offense either. So laying a lot of those points is a little bit crazier to do with a team like they are. Oh, I'm dying here, man. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's what I like there. Mercer as the in-state little brother. I think they have some extra motivation there factoring in. And Georgia also has Georgia Tech next. And even though Georgia Tech is not really that good either, they're certainly a team that their name carries at least some weight in college basketball because of some of their past seasons. And that is still, I mean, that's a state rivalry game there. And Georgia Tech, of course, is one of the bigger conference schools. So that game matters more to Georgia than this Mercer game does. The Florida State game mattered more as well. So this is a sandwich spot. Georgia's got this game between two bigger conference opponents, and Georgia Tech is kind of their in-state, not even really little brother, but in-state brother, where it's almost like the teams are kind of like seen on like the same level, on the same footing. So I think that makes this a look-ahead spot. I think it's a sandwich spot that Georgia's in. That's the one play of the day. Mercer plus 14.5. Again, like only having one play on the day, there's more of a risk that you're going to lose that day because the quantity is so low. You go 0-1, you lose that day, but we'll do it. It's the play that I like on the board. Mercer plus 14.5. Let's do it. And we do have the two college football games tonight. Excuse me. To start the month of December. We have two of the championship games. Championship weekend starts tonight. I mentioned both of these. I mentioned all the championship games on my video. I do have an opinion on every one of these games, and it is possible that some of these opinions could change throughout the week as I see like the market dynamics changing or whatever. But I think for the most part, they probably won't. And in tonight's games, they have not. Oregon is actually, I think, one of the stronger leans in these. I just don't think I can quite get there with a bet, but they're up from 7.5 and now getting close to 10. Although I think the 9.5s are pretty predominant out there. I think if you want to lay the points, I think 9.5 is still okay on Oregon there. They got 60% of the cash, but 58% of the tickets. So they have a little bit of the cash discrepancy. And I know that there are professional bettors that like Oregon there. And the reasoning there is really that the line looks really suspicious. As I mentioned in my college football video, Oregon lost to Washington during the season, and that was their only loss on the season. So people are going to look at this and think, well, Washington was like a 3-point home favorite, and they beat Oregon by 3. So how could they possibly be like an almost 10-point underdog here on a neutral field? They're playing this game in Las Vegas. I think the fact really is that, Oregon, they made some mistakes in that game for sure. They were going for it on fourth down a lot, and they were failing on pretty much all of them. So that certainly factored into the game. They had a lot of turnovers on downs in that game, which is kind of something that's not totally sustainable. If they decide that they're no longer going to be doing that in this game, that might be the case. Because they lost that game, they have the adjustments to make, of course. But I think this is also a case where the market has finally caught up to what these teams actually are, and it has adjusted to what these teams actually are, seeing that Washington hasn't been as good in the second half of the season. So maybe that, I don't know, does that make it a little bit of an overreaction at this point in the market? I don't really think so. I don't know. I think that the lines just weren't totally accurate the first time these teams played, even though I liked Washington in that one because I liked the spot a little bit. I did not have the money on it, but the market kind of dictated a play on Washington there. This time, I think the market is dictating a play on Oregon because the line looks so suspicious, and the odds makers are telling you Oregon is the better team here, and Georgia is definitely the better team too. Oregon, they have the better defense. There's no question about that, and I think they actually have the better offense as well. And I think they have more experience here. They have the experience factor going for them. Bo Nix, I think, has more big game experience than Michael Penix does in a game that's like at this level. I think Oregon has a bit more of the experience on their side there as well. So I think all around they are the better team, and that's the only way that I would look there. And yeah, like I said, the team that has the adjustments to make off of that first loss as well. So if you're Washington and you won that game, you have less to adjust there. But yeah, Washington has not been playing as well down the stretch, and Oregon has been playing very well. So that also is factored into why this line has shifted like this. But I think it has also adjusted to like what these teams actually are. Whereas earlier in the season, it was not as we didn't know as much about these teams, and now we have more information. So I think the market now has more information to factor into the line there. So I think that's what's going on. Then the the Conference USA Championship is also tonight, which is at Liberty. New Mexico State at Liberty. Liberty's hosting. This looks like the line has moved from Liberty 6.5 point favorite up to an 11.5 point favorite at this point. 67% of the tickets on them, but 53% of the cash on New Mexico State. I don't have that strong a lean here, but with the line being that high, I think there cannot be value on Liberty at this point, really. They're a ranked team. They're an undefeated team. They haven't done anything wrong, really, this season. So, I don't think the betting public is really going to want to get involved on the New Mexico State side. They know Liberty is the better team, but obviously the spread, that is the great equalizer, basically, as they say. Liberty is the better team, but if you want to take them, you got to lay a huge price to do it, a huge number. So will they actually cover that huge number? I'm not so sure. I think New Mexico State, they have nothing to lose, really, whereas the pressure is on for Liberty if they really want to complete this undefeated season there and win the conference. They're supposed to win the conference. They've been leading it all year. So I think they've been building up. The fact that they have the target on their back, that can kind of get to you eventually. You have that target on your back. You've had pressure on you trying to maintain that undefeated season. Whereas New Mexico State just got into this game in the last couple of weeks. They weren't sure if they were, I don't even know if they were sure that they were going to be bowl eligible, really, because a lot of these teams have records that are kind of around 500. But now they got into this game. I don't think they expected to be in this game. So they're kind of free rolling at this point, man. And when you're a team that doesn't have pressure on you, you got nothing to lose. I like that aspect of it. I think you tend to play a looser style of game. So I think that might be what we see here out of New Mexico State. So I lean to that side as well. That's going to do it for me, man. The one play today is college basketball, Mercer, plus the points. I think Georgia is in a letdown spot, and I think they're in a sandwich spot with their Georgia rivalry coming up next. I think this is a bigger game for Mercer. This is also an in-state battle, but I think it's a one-sided rivalry, so it's a much bigger game for Mercer. So Mercer plus the points there. That's going to do it for me, man. I am Tower Gang Toad. Have a good one. Peace. Enjoy all these games, man. College football championship weekend begins. It's going to be a fun one. Peace.